What is up, everybody? What is up, you guys? So last time I started with the first 4 picks for the Rams, and now we're gonna go to the last final 5. And I think it's something that the Rams are really interested in finding depth. Maybe it's future decisions that are going to be made, so that's why they made the decisions that they were going to make. And last time we talked about Cam Akers, Van Jefferson, Terrell Lewis, and Terrell Burgess. Now we're going to go with round 4 pick 136, which is going to be Brycen Hopkins, someone that I really didn't have on the radar for the Rams. I didn't really think the Rams had a tight end needing to be made. I was still obviously going offensive line, but they really liked what they saw with Brycen Hopkins out of Purdue. I think he ran a 44.66, can bench press, I think, like 23, 24 times. So he's a good athlete, and he's got decent hands. The only knock on him was about his drop percentage. I think he had a couple of drops back in college. But if I were to compare him, it would be a guy like Tyler Higbee, pretty decent tight end. I think he's about 6'4", 6'5". So the guy's athletic, a good target in the red zone, and a decent, I would say middle of the road tight end for right now. Maybe he develops into something like Tyler Higbee, but that kind of gives you the question whether or not, Gerald Everett's going to be in the long-term plans for the Rams, because we know Tyler Higbee, he's already got a contract. He got it extended for, I think, 3 to 4 years. So you're starting to think, well, maybe Brycen Hopkins is something that the Rams are looking to long-term wise to come in for a guy like Gerald Everett, because we know Gerald Everett is more of a vertical threat. He's more of a pass-catching tight end, but he's not a good blocker. So maybe they're looking long-term. We won't be able to pay for Gerald Everett to stay on the team, depending on what he's asking for. Maybe they can go and trade Gerald Everett in the future. So that's what I took about this pick, is just simply, it was at a need. What are our plans for that position in the future? So that's number 1. Now we're going to move on to Jordan Fuller out of Ohio State. This is a guy that he was actually looked to be one of the best safeties in general for this draft class, and when the Rams ended up getting him in the 6th round, pick 199. And he's got really good coverage skills. Not the best when it comes to man-to-man, but more of a zone type of safety. I wasn't really on the radar for safety, except for like a guy like Tanner Muse or Geno Stone, but Jordan Fuller at this spot is actually a pretty good get. You never know what the Rams' plans are for linebacker, especially in passing down. So maybe they might put a bunch of defensive backs at, on 3rd down and long, maybe like 3 and 10, 3rd and 6. It's going to be a pass. That's probably when you'll see guys like Jordan Fuller around pick 6 to 7, round 7. The remaining ones, they're probably going to be a lot of special teams guys, or maybe guys that if they flash in the preseason, they might actually start, especially at the linebacker position. But a guy like Jordan Fuller, we already have safeties when it comes to Terrell Burgess, and then we also have safeties like Taylor Rapp and John Johnson. So having another guy for depth reasons, or maybe scheme-wise, Jordan Fuller could fill in that need, and it didn't cost as much. He was still one of the best safeties in the draft, but it didn't cost you much. You got a guy in the 6th round that can come in. Hopefully no one gets hurt, but if they do get hurt, he'll be decent enough to start at that position. Hopefully, he ends up playing well. I would say a good get, maybe a pick that we got because he was still on the board and they were still on the Rams' plans. That's what you hope for, a guy that was originally planned to get, and you move forward with that. Now, Clay Johnston, he's more of a run-stopping, high-energy, high-motor type of linebacker, a guy that has actually legitimate chance of getting picked up by the Rams and starting at linebacker depending on the situation. Like I said, this guy is not much of a pass coverage guy, but he's a good sniffer for the football. He's a good tackler, and that's kind of what you ask for in a player like him. He was in the 7th round, pick 234. At this point of the draft, you're just finding guys that can fit the system, can play special teams, and maybe has a high upside. He was regarded as a really good linebacker prior to getting hurt, and that's what kind of messed up his stock. But he seems to be fine now. If you guys follow him on Twitter or follow him on Instagram, the guy was very excited to get drafted by the LA Rams when he did. So hopefully these guys have like a chip on their shoulder and come in and perform, because the Rams are really relying on guys like these to come in the future. Next was Sam Sloman, a kicker out of Miami of Ohio, where our coach Sean McVay was going to school, and he actually started off there, played football there. But this guy's a kicker. Percentage-wise, I'm not sure what his kicking percentage was, but I guess they liked him enough to keep him, and decided that they're going to go for kicker. Even though we did sign 2 kickers in the offseason, why not have them compete for third? And if it doesn't go well, you just wasted a 7th round pick, something that you really didn't value that high. And I guess if they like this guy, he must have saw something in Sam Sloman to, make him think, well, this guy can play and he can kick, and hopefully he works out. I know that the guy, I'm not sure whether Greg the Leg was a undrafted free agent or whether he was a 6th round pick. I hope the Rams can get a guy of value like that to come in for the Rams and kick, man. Because that's these kickers, you might not think they're very important. Like, that's a position that many teams don't find important, but those are game-winning kicks. Field goals come in handy in the 4th quarter when you're trying to win games and you're trying to get points to win games, and that's what the Rams are doing. I think they're calculating every single move, and hopefully everything works out for the best. But in the end, if this kicker doesn't kick well, at least you only spent a 7th round pick on him. And last but not least, Tremaine Ankrum. This offensive lineman is actually about 6'3", 312 pounds, ran a 40 like around 5.20. So he's not the fastest, but he's not the slowest either. I've seen worse. Bench pressed about like 26, 27 times. So he's kind of like a right tackle, right guard hybrid, and that's just depth for the Rams, the offensive line. Around this pick, I looked at him and his tape, and he's not that bad, man. He can hold his own. He's a decent guard / tackle that I hope the Rams really think about putting him in the interior. Hopefully it works out great for us. I'm still iffy about the offensive line and what they have planned for that position. I'm not 100% on board with not picking an offensive lineman until the 7th round. But you never know, man. This might be a diamond that the Rams were looking at and saw him going undrafted and decided to go get him, and many other undrafted free agents that we're working out on. But this guy is hopefully a guy that we can put in. Like Austin Blythe, I think was a 7th round pick for the Indianapolis Colts, and the Rams ended up getting him, putting him in at guard, and it actually worked out well. So hopefully this guy makes the team. Hopefully all these guys can make the team, but it's basically whoever the best is for the position, man. Because this was, to me, a really strong draft class. Akers comes in for Todd Gurley. Van Jefferson, his plans are to eventually start. Good route runner. I think Sean McVay was very high on Van Jefferson, and looked to be a guy that could hopefully start in the future when either Cooper Kupp gets extended or Josh Reynolds gets extended, because I don't see both of them getting extended. I think this is both their last year in the rookie deal. After this, someone has to get paid. So that allows Van Jefferson to eventually come in at certain points of the season and run routes, man. Then you got Terrell Lewis, who will, hopefully start in the edge. I see a really good high ceiling on this guy. He's a potential late 1st round pick, early 2nd if the Rams weren't, if the Rams were looking for edge. This guy had issues when it came to injuries, which really messed up his draft stock, but would be a godsend for the Rams if he were to start, because he's got a lot of power. He's got some speed, but it comes with a lot of power. Then Terrell Burgess, a guy that's a safety. He could play free safety. He could play strong safety. He can play slot corner, nickel corner. So He's got versatility, which I really think this guy will come in to be our new slot corner for the Rams, and might be a potential a guy that might be moved in with Taylor Rapp, depending on how they like every player. We'll probably see this guy play safety at times. He might be playing at the slot position at times. I actually did look at his tape. Didn't want to sound like a hater on my first video, but the guy was actually a pretty good baller, man. He played good for the Utah team that ended up making the Pac-12, I think, championship. So he was a really good stud for that team. Then you look at Bryce Hopkins, a guy that I feel like we didn't need, but you never know. If he's a Tyler Higbee type of player, that might end up well. And then we already talked about the rest of the picks. So I think this was a really good draft class. Hope you guys liked the video. Leave a like, leave a share, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the whole class in general. I'll be making more videos about these guys individually. And then just stay tuned, you guys. Until next time, go Rams.